Hey, everybody. Okay, let's do some animation. Now you can animate practically any parameter in 3ds Max, but we're going to focus on basic transforms, meaning move, rotate, and scale. Okay, mostly move and rotate, just to make things happen, right? And there's a lot of associated things that we have to understand, like linking and pivot points and stuff like that. So most of what you need for animation is down here in this area across the bottom. This is where the simple controls are. There are other curve editors and things we can go into for more complicated stuff, but probably going to be able to do everything right down here. All right, let me just create a box here, and you'll want to follow along with this stuff. All right, so there's two basic ways to put keys down. So this thing right down here is the timeline, right? So it goes from 0 to 100. So the default number is 100 frames. And video is about 30 frames a second, right? So it's around 3 seconds approximately. And of course, we can change all that. So there's auto key and there's set key. Anyway, auto key, whenever you change things, it automatically puts keys down. And they always start from 0. It's supposed to be easier. I actually find it less easy and less controlled. The only time I use auto key is if there's set key puts down specific types of keys, and if I'm animating some really weird parameter that I can't figure out what category it goes in, or it doesn't seem to go in any type of key, I'll use auto key and it can figure it out. But all right, so to animate, turn on set key. Okay, so everything turns red, right? That means we're putting keys down. Make sure that whenever you're not actively animating, you turn this set key back off again. Okay, so it's on. Here's my current time indicator, or whatever you want to call this thing. Okay, time slider. I'm going to make sure I'm at 0. Right. And now this big plus here puts down keys for whatever value I'm animating at whatever time I'm in on the time slider. Okay, this will all, we're just going to practice a bunch, and it'll all start to make sense as you do it. All right, but we want to control what kind of keys we're putting down, because otherwise this is going to put down a bunch of key types that we're not using. So you go to this key filters right here next to it, right? And you can see it's doing position, rotation, scale, and inverse kinematic parameters, okay? Which is a kind of odd thing to be on by default, but whatever. All right, so we're only animating position, so we'll turn off all the other ones, okay? And put down a key, okay? And you can see if I move my current time indicator, this red dot here, so that red square, that's a position key, okay? So I'll go somewhere like frame 25 or something, and I'm going to move this thing up here, okay? And if I move my current time indicator without putting a key down, it just jumps back there, okay? So I'm moving my object, and then I'm putting a key down, okay? So we animated something. Let's see if I can make it go in sort of a square. So I'm going to move it this direction now, okay? Put a key down, move somewhere else. Okay, when I'm moving, make sure you put your cursor right on the arrowhead. Okay, make sure you move in exactly the axis that you want to move in. Generally, doing anything in all 3 dimensions at once, unless you really know what you're doing with the program, is a bad idea. Okay, I'm going to move back here, put down a keyframe. All right, and now we can copy keyframes. Okay, so I'm going to put the end one at the beginning. So to do that, you just hold down Shift and then click on the keyframe and drag it to the end. And don't go off the end, because you can go off the end. And then you have to change the number of frames you have to find it again. So go right there to 100. All right. And let's play that. So there's a little VCR looking or whatever thing down here. All right, so we made it move, and it will move in whatever, whatever viewport I activate. Okay, and again, if you decide to, if I turn off set key and then decide to do something, okay, it's going to do it globally to all the keyframes, right? If I were to move this, down, say, for example, it would continue the same route, but it would be lower. Let's add an animation, a rotation in there. So let's go to our filters and change it to turn off position and turn on rotation. Okay. And let's make it so somewhere in the middle here, it flips 180 degrees. Okay. So I'm making sure I have angle snap turned on up here, right? So I'm going to set key. Let's see. I'm trying to think what's the best way to do this. All right, so I'll go here. I'll start here, and I'll put a key down for rotation there. So it's going to continue the way it was. And then right maybe here, I'm going to have it flip over 180 degrees. I'm going to put a key down. Okay, let's see what that does. So if you drew yours in the same viewport I drew mine in and so on, you'll notice that when it gets to the end of the animation, it kind of pops up now right there. So that's because the pivot point on the box is at the bottom, right? And so I flipped it upside down, and it's actually lower. And then when it gets to the origin point, it pops back up there. So to fix that, let's stop it from playing. And I can turn off set key, because even though I'm going to copy a key, I'm not creating keys. All right, so I'm going to hold down Shift here and click and drag on this guy. And then let's see how that, I'm going to have it flip over and then back again. Oh, that's fun, right? All right, if I want to have it do this whole maneuver a couple of times, for example, like let's say I'm going to move these guys over here and then push down Shift and then drag on them over to here. Okay, let's see what that gives us. Okay, so they're a little close together. Maybe I'll move them, these rotation keys a little farther apart, so it's not flipping quite so fast. I can even go here if I want. Okay, or I can move them even farther apart. Okay, so let's look at, we'll adjust pivot points in the next exercise, I think, but let's just look at linking here for a minute. So we're not actually animating anything here. The animation's already been done, but we can link another object to this. So maybe I'm going to go to create, and I'm going to make a sphere, okay, here. Maybe like putting it next to the box like that, right? Now you can group objects and animate groups, but it becomes when if you're trying to edit the keys and you have a big group of 100 objects or something like that, finding the key you have to wade through a lot of keys to find the parent group name, and it's kind of tedious. So when people are well, anyway, grouping is found up in the main menu, group, and here you can group stuff, ungroup them, open the group, close the group, etc. Just for organization, I do group all the time, but for animating things that you want to be it's easier to use link. Okay, so this right up here is select and link. It's like select and rotate, so you can start with it unselected. It will select the object. Select and unlink, and this is a bind to space warp, which is mostly to do with particle systems and stuff, which we're not using right now. So I'm going to go select and link, right? And the linking goes from child to parent. Okay, so we already have the animation in the box, so that's the parent, right? So I'm going to drag from the child, and it makes this little rubber bandy thing. See that? Okay, to the parent. There it is. Okay, and I'm going to get out of that select and link. Now, if I play this thing, okay. So the child, if I move the parent object, okay, it's going to move the child, but I can move the child object wherever I want. Okay, and it's still going to be linked, okay, because the child can move around, but the parent is the parent. Okay? Now, also, there's some controls like, let's see, this. Let me go to one of my move keys. If I right click on this, I can see here's the parameters for X, Y, and Z positions. And if I say go to X position, all right, now this thing, you have to use this quite a bit. So you can see that if I click forward and backwards, right, on this thing, you'll notice that I'm on keyframe number 1. And if I click forwards down here on the bottom of my scene, it's going from 1 to the next keyframe. Okay, there's 5 position keys, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and it says 5. Okay, and it's saying the different values in X. So I move this thing in X and Y, but not Z, right? Right, yeah. I think so. Okay, and you can see here the time is when that keyframe exists. All right. So if I wanted to change this to, say frame 26, I can adjust that. All right, it looks like it's splitting apart because I'm only doing X instead of X and Y. So I'll leave it there for the moment. And I can change the value if instead of 75.796, I wanted 75 or 70, I could type that in there. All right. And these things here are the way that the speed of the object flows through the keyframe. This is how it enters it, and this is how it exits it. We don't have to make too much change to this, but the default is Bezier, which means it's controllable if you go up here into your motion panel as a Bezier spline. We probably won't have to do that, though. The one that we're particularly interested in is this one, which means it goes into your keyframe without speeding up or slowing down, okay? And it doesn't say how it exits. And here's the one that exits it, okay? I'm just going to go back to Bezier on these, but you want this one if you're doing something that looks very regular in its speed, like a machine. Like a machine might not decelerate till it gets to the end of its movement. It goes like and stops, like a robot kind of. Whereas the Bezier one will tend to slow down slightly when it goes through a keyframe. Okay. As we do some examples, we'll be editing these things. But anyway, it's just, so this is 2 I'm in. So there's X position. Okay, I'm in frame 2, value of 72. If I right click on this thing and go to Y position, okay. So what I was talking about before, saying that grouping is kind of tedious. If you had a group of objects, say, and you were just animating position, and you had 100 objects grouped together, you would see X, Y, and Z for all 100 of them in a big pile here. And if you were animating other parameters like rotation or whatever, you'd see all those too. So linking's a lot easier. If I go to Y, okay, see those change. There's changes in Y. If I go to, what am I doing here? Here I am. If I go to Z, okay, and if I click through all the keyframes, you'll notice the value never changes. So Z is the one I didn't animate, right? I didn't go up and down like this. I just did X and Y. So sometimes you have to check those to figure out which dimension you're moving in. So that's pretty much the basics of animation. Next, we'll try a few exercises so we can see how that all works.